Okay, let's try to fix the camera. A few new people got added, all humans. Thor drew his prediction card, but the new humans added meant that I could play my old one, which is that Brynhild shows up and is his bonus. Okay, that's cool. You know, humans don't count, so we'll just put her in his pack. Might not want her in the battle line, but I don't know. She doesn't have any abilities or anything to help. Okay. However, my prediction card that I drew is sadly discolored, perhaps by those papers that whoever I bought it from had it wrapped, but also bent. The danger of used games. I think you had to cut these cards yourself. I'm not sure. They're not very nicely cut if they were, but whoever cut them, either the company or whatever, left a little bit of, they leave a residue that a machine cutter wouldn't do normally, I don't think, in terms of like bending the edges. I don't know. It's it's an old game. Now this card he could have Balder killed and removed from the game into Helheim, but to do so will give Hod, who's controlled, I believe, actually by Odin, some extra reputation. And I don't really want to do that unless somebody had Baldur and I have a problem, with their having him. So I'm going to hold that card. I may play it just to reduce the Jotun deck, but, honestly, we're not going to go through that whole Jotun deck. Baldur's pretty potent, but it looks to me right now that the Jotun, the evil players in general, are not holding up their end of the fight right now. Had an interesting turn. He ran into a big pile of female Aesir, which adds to some interesting options. So the first choice he went for was Follower. He could take a couple of them on his charisma isn't very high, so he can't have a whole bunch of followers with him, but that's okay. But they went with Seduction. Now his went off first, there's second. It didn't work. It would have been kind of cool, because Seduction would end the encounter, which was the purpose to it, but it also throws another Acer out of the deck. Then after that, he went with Challenge, which is really weird. It only works, 10% of the time against a female. It's really ineffective, but it's automatic against males. And I'm not quite sure, how much effect there would be. She could just refuse to challenge, being someone there. But she chose Khan, trying to sneak one of his items out. The Acer can't choose Khan as their first choice, but can take it as a second or third. And then he went with Khan, and she went with Friendship. And again, nothing happened at all. I don't know. Friendship allowed her to short circuit the Khan if it went off first, but it did not. Now Thor is sitting, though, at the place where you can grab a bronze item, and he's going to get to look through the deck and find himself one. It has a full pack, actually an over full pack, in terms of I had to throw one Aesir back in the deck. I had miscounted what I had there. He runs into an animal, a horse, and he sicks his own animals, which are all, fast and strong and everything, to bring it down and subdue it. And now he's got another horse in his group. He did take some, this was just subdual damage, so it goes away, but he did take some real damage because Senior is fighting for its life. 8 points on Gary, but Jerry, I don't know, his wolf, one of his wolves, and that, doesn't mean much, but it does weaken him. Probably put him towards the back of the pack of critters in availability. Senior is probably going to end up towards the front. Ray got a nice draw, Heimdall and two others. That left only one banner left, but their first attempt to get a follower did not work. There was a seduction attempt on Heimdall's side, not him, but actually Gulavig trying to seduce someone didn't work. Then Heimdall tried a follower. take over Frey's group and just knock the Vanner out of this. Yeah, that actually had a chance of succeeding, and no, it didn't work. But Frey ended up conning Heimdall and getting his woman instead of this kind of random male god who's not as good. What's really great about her is she has this tame wolves ability, which I assume if I meet wolves, I can prevent them from attacking, I can make them follow, even in excess of charisma. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But I also have Rebirth. I don't know what the hell that has. But it looked like this good pile of stuff. As soon as the card's reduced to zero stamina, it goes back to its printed. So, she's kind of immortal 3 times. But probably the most interesting to me is Regenerate, which means I can restore stamina to any creature in the encounter, and I can use it once per game turn for each creature. Now I don't, for his group, I don't have to go wandering off through Hell and Creation. Unfortunately, I can't bring that with me to Ragnarok, but the other side of it that's not so good is I end up not getting these 2 Vanner, but if the follower didn't succeed, I wasn't going to get Heimdall. I could have challenged him, but he's actually better. I think Heimdall's a better choice than Frey. And with so much of the prediction deck left, look, it's Ragnarok. And that's immediate. I think there's some others in here that have Ragnarok happen after a full turn. So, Ragnarok is likely to happen well before that deck depletes, if I recall correctly. When Ragnarok comes up, all player turns cease, players proceed to agree in combat. Basically, everybody who goes to Ragnarok is going to show up. Now, we're going to have to be careful in terms of how we determine that deck, etc. It goes from reputation lowest to highest if the players can't come to some agreement as to what ordering they want to do. Now, in general, that probably means people kind of want to force towards that, but what we're going to see is a situation where there are actually a lot of good characters. So being early in the line is probably important. In terms of being able to actually maybe kill something. On the other hand, you might get killed if you're early in the line. We have to look at which people actually go to Ragnarok. I don't think the animals do. And then it's going to be a battle to the death. And you get points, additional reputation points for killing things in Ragnarok. We'll just start scoring that. I'm probably not going to make sheets of paper for each player at this point. We've got 3 players who have sheets, but no reason to fill it out for the rest. Okay. I'll swap batteries and we'll start setting that up. Evil players. Surtur is willing to allow Hrungnir to go wherever he likes, because that'll allow Surtur to set up the rest of his troops wherever he likes. They're going to negotiate on that way. I'm not sure we're going to have an equal negotiation here. I'm going to use little counters to mark who controls what, just to make life easier. The good players with so many characters are unable to come to an agreement. Basically, they're hoping maybe to kill off some of Odin's points that he has, because he's got a lot of points in the bank just with this. But he's got some lower ranking guys. But honestly, it's kind of a, hey, how can we negotiate this so maybe we get to kill all the giants and you don't, or whatever. And it's like, nah, just set it up the way it's supposed to fall at random. I've sorted out the people who don't go to Ragnarok. I think Thor's entire group does. And then I'm going to do the arrangement. Now remember, you can triple up. So there's going to be, you know, after that first set of 4 guys, because there's only 4 giants here, are assigned, then there's going to be, you know, 2 more sets of 4. So perhaps all of the good characters, or the majority of them, are going to go or show up in the front line right away, or show up in the battle right away and engaged with people. The people who are not going to be engaged are going to be the most potent ones, guys like Odin, which kind of sucks, but, you know, that's part of the agreement. You know, not being able to agree means is Thor and Odin are the 2 who are left out of the battle. Vidar's entire group is in play here. Well, not Vidar. Vidar is part of Odin's now, I think, right? Oh no, the Vanner group, which is Frey's group, is all here. Now, remember, I've made a couple of modifications, which are people who are engaged stay engaged with who they're engaged with. I'm going to keep that even through Ragnarok, and we're going to do it in straight reaction time instead of one side versus the other. I just think these things help the game and probably are close to what the designer intended. One, Hrungnir, he's all on his own. All the others have counters on him because they're all controlled by a player who has more than one guy. And we'll start this massive battle. First round, Muspel went down to Frey. Surtur killed the very easy to kill blind Hod. And by the way, Thor had the card which could have given Hod points, but he didn't want to do that. And Hrungnir actually took a hit, but he's not terribly weakened. I've got markers on the people who have had their agility reduced because somebody took a swing at them. 1 space is opened up. Whoever's got the lowest reaction, whoever's got the lowest reputation goes in there as the person in the order. And that'll be Lodor here. These guys are there to fill in the line if need be. And remember, Surtur now has a higher reputation, so whoever kills him gets that additional reputation for killing Hod as well, because Surtur's reputation has been increased by that full amount. Plus anything that's down here, so that's not a reputation increase. I think that's just Gang. Gang has an increased reputation already. Of the giants fall, Surtur stands. He's killed another ace here, and we've got to find the fill-in here who's going to be the lowest reputation guy. Just because I haven't come up with any better rule. In a sense, that should be reaction, but we got a 4 here. I'll find whoever's supposed to slide in there. We got to be careful because if they've killed anyone, they're less likely. So this guy actually doesn't have a 4. He's got a 4 plus whatever he killed. Although Surtur takes down another Vanner, Nerthus takes him out and is going to get that whole score and his items and everything. And now it's time just to score things because good has won. Hey, break the prophecy and all. Alright, we'll come back after I score it. I scored it out by character, basically. Thor got 16 points, which is what he's worth at the beginning. Who's this? Honer. No, humans, yeah, that big pile of humans. Remember, the humans themselves are doubled, so they were worth 30 points. The dwarves another 14. That's the majority of his points. He comes out at 79. Odin, his big value here added on is the animals. He starts off with a lot of those to begin with, but Vidar also had a pretty good score. He killed someone, grabbed some items, ends up at 74. But the biggie was, of course, Nerthus at 35. When you combine that with Frey, who also killed and grabbed some items, we end up at an 85. The Giants had gotten themselves in an ugly position where they weren't going to win. And the real interesting thing then comes down to, and a lot of the game does anyway, luck. But it comes down to luck at the very end, which is, you know, where do you end up? Who ends up killing what? You know, I mean, there's no reason in particular why Nerthus is the guy who killed him. But he got a lucky die roll, and boom, there's a ton of points. So to some extent, no matter what you do in this game, there's so much luck in the end that whatever your scoring is kind of, you know, just a matter of who rolled the best at the important times or something like that, which is fairly, yeah, I would say, unrewarding. When you look at it, it's okay to fiddle around with. I don't know why the hell we played this so much, except there was kind of this feeling that there were things you could do to improve your play and improve what you're bringing to Ragnarok. Obviously, look, if we were in the same situation with only a couple of evil characters and a bunch of good characters, but let's say that, I don't know, that only one of the good character piles was of any significant size. I mean, look, Frey's group is fairly big. Odin's group was fairly large. Thor's group was a little smaller. If there had only been one reasonable-sized group, they would have increased their odds of getting the kills. Of course, they would have also increased their odds of losing characters, but they might end up scoring those characters anyway by killing the enemy. There's something very unrewarding about this game. It's got a fair amount of overhead. Not much more strategy than, say, Talisman does, but an interface that, if anything, is actually more difficult to cope with than Talisman's. And it certainly doesn't have that sort of low-level entry point that Talisman has. So, I don't know what to say about it. You know, the guy who did it, obviously a labor of love. He really had a lot of interest in the era. Worked out, you know, his character cards, all kind of information about him. But then some of the stuff's kind of weird. Like, why are you differentiating Alfar from elves? What's that supposed to mean? And then the hideous map, etc. So, I don't know. I think there's certain things you can do in this game, though, to try to improve your chances. Like if you're Thor, don't go for the dwarves first. Like the first time we played, somebody just played Thor, and they're like, oh, stomp, 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 and that worked okay. But if you decide you want to get Mjolnir, the way you do it is you gather up your items first. The problem is you got to get people who can carry your items. So you got to get a group together. By the time you do all that, you probably don't have time to go get the dwarves then, because the game is over like that. Even in 3 players, we found that it was almost impossible to get the items together that Thor needed to build Mjolnir. Other player, if you just take it as, you know, the game itself and don't worry about trying to do things like creating Mjolnir, why the hell wouldn't you want to do that though, right? You know, that's Thor. Well, if you start doing, you know, playing it that way, well, it's just not that good a competitive game, and I don't know why you're playing it if not for the story, and it kind of fails in the story. Anyway, we're getting into review territory, as we almost always do. So I'm going to send this sucker up.